Day 131. Borrowing against the future. There's a mental trap I fall into far too often, and I suspect that I'm not alone in this. It's the belief that I can make up for today's bad choices by being extra good in the future. It's a form of self-deception, a false credit system where I borrow from a version of myself that doesn't yet exist. One that is disciplined, motivated, and ready to correct all my missteps. But that future self is always just out of reach. This flawed thinking is the same logic that allows someone to eat poorly all week because they'll start on a diet on Monday, or skipping workouts for months because they'll train harder for the marathon later. It's a convenient lie, an excuse wrapped up in the illusion of a future self-disciplined self. And if left unchecked, it leads to a slow but inevitable decline. The trap of moral licensing. Psychologists call one form of this thinking moral licensing. It's the idea that doing something good gives us permission to do something bad. If I exercise in the morning, I might justify eating junk food later. If I work hard on a project today, I might excuse being lazy tomorrow. This pattern creates a mental ledger where we falsely believe we're balancing the scales, even when our bad choices outweigh the good. Moral licensing is why people who donate to a charity might feel justified in being rude to someone, or why someone who volunteers at a shelter might excuse cutting corners at work. Or, excusing the small little theft that you're doing because I work hard. In reality, good deeds don't erase bad ones, but our brains trick us into believing that they do. The problem of delay discounting. Another cognitive bias at play here is delay discounting. Our tendency to undervalue future rewards compared to immediate gratification. We prioritize what feels good now over what's better for us in the long run. For example, if someone offered you $50 today or $100 in a year, many people would take the $50. Why? Because the future seems distant, uncertain, and less real. This principle applies to our habits. Eating a donut today is enjoyable right now, while the benefits of eating healthy are distant and abstract. Skipping the gym feels easy right now, while the benefits of exercise are months or potentially years away. The more we engage in this type of thinking, the more we train our minds to push responsibility onto our future selves. But eventually that future self arrives burdened, out of shape, overwhelmed, and unable to pay the debt that we've accumulated. The debt you just can't pay. Most people who die from self-imposed poor health, like heart disease, obesity, diabetes, probably had a moment, maybe even the very day they died, where they told themselves they'd start being healthier soon, but the weight of their past choices was too much. The lie they had told themselves over and over, that they would make up for it later, had finally caught up to them. Now, there are some health conditions that people just can't avoid. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about self-imposed health problems. But it's not just health. It's the same with relationships, career goals, personal projects, anything that requires consistent effort over time. If you keep telling yourself that tomorrow is when you'll finally get serious, you will build a debt so large that overcoming it feels impossible. And when something feels impossible, we tend to give up entirely. Stop borrowing. Start paying right now. The solution is uncomfortable but simple. Stop borrowing from your future. The idea that you'll suddenly become a different person, one with perfect discipline and motivation, is a fantasy. Instead, recognize that today is all that you have. There is no future self coming to save you. There's just you right now, making choices that either move you forward or set you back. A small step today, no matter how insignificant it feels, is worth infinitely more than the grand plans you have for tomorrow. I would stop waiting. Just start right now.